police are looking at the footage and they're trying to figure out who is this lady in the chair on this recording. They're trying to figure out, do you recognize her? Can anybody recognize this lady? Like, where is she? We want to speak to her. So they send this footage over to the FBI because they see that she has a large tattoo on her calf. They send it to the FBI so they can somehow determine what this tattoo is and hopefully lead them to the victim. And how the FBI is able to make out what this tattoo is insane to me because the footage is so grainy, but they are somehow able to determine what this tattoo is. Now, it's a super unique tattoo. It's like squiggly lines or something. It's not like something simple like a heart or whatever. It's a very unique tattoo. They are somehow able to determine what it is, and then the FBI, they post it. I'm not sure how they get it out there, but they get it out there to the public somehow, and they're saying like, hey, if this is your tattoo, can you please come forward? We really need to speak with you. I'm going to be completely honest. I'm not fully sure how they put it out there because it got to this woman named Kelly. Kelly was living in Colorado at the time, and she's like, hey, that's my tattoo. Kelly goes to the police department in Truth or Consequences, and then they tell her that they have this videotape. So let me tell you now Kelly's story, okay? So, new story. Kelly later testifies July 24th, 1996. She and her husband got into an argument, and at this time she was living in Elephant Butte. So they get into an argument, she leaves the house, and she decided to go out with her girlfriends and go play pool and have a couple of adult beverages. They end up at Blue Water Saloon. It's a local bar where a lot of people in the neighborhood go. They decide just to hang out there and play pool. Now, while inside this bar, Kelly runs into an old friend. Her name's Jessie. Pop quiz. Do you remember what David's daughter's name was? Well, her name's Jessie. Jessie is David's daughter. Okay, she's hanging out at this bar too. So Kelly was saying that she had known Jessie for a couple of years. So when Kelly's friends decided to go home for the night, Kelly felt comfortable hanging out with Jessie. Towards the end of the night, Kelly said she was feeling really dizzy, ill, she was feeling sick, and she only had one beer and she needed a ride home. So she asked her friend Jessie, hey, can you give me a ride home? And Jessie's like, sure. Kelly says from that point, she does not remember a damn thing. Okay, nothing. But it is later reported what exactly happened, and it's this. So Jessie, David's daughter, she drugged the beer that Kelly was drinking. And instead of driving her home, she drove Kelly to David's trailer. Once she got there, a dog collar was attached to Kelly, and she was locked up in the toy box. Kelly awoke, and she blacked out several times during the 2 days of torture and drugging. She was being consistently drugged. So he thinks she's dead, and then he takes her to like the side of the road or something, and he drops her off, Kelly. And then another man finds her. I know this is confusing, but another man finds Kelly, and he ends up actually taking her home, okay? At that time when she was dropped off by the stranger, Kelly's husband believed she was actually cheating on him or had been on a drug binge, and he didn't believe her story at all. She kept saying to her husband that she didn't remember what happened. She was gone for 2 days and she just didn't remember. And he did not believe her. He ended up filing for divorce from Kelly, and then Kelly moved to Colorado. And this was all within like a week time frame. It was very quick. Kelly said in an interview that she kept having nightmares, and these nightmares were like of her being held down or restrained and being like raped or things being inserted in her. And she just thought it was due to like stress. So when she went to go talk to police because of her tattoo, they questioned her, asking if she remembered anything about being at this house, if she knew who the guy was. And then police investigators brought up the VHS tape. She said she didn't know what they were talking about, right? She had no idea. I couldn't even imagine being in her shoes because police end up like showing her the tape. It eventually led to her remembering everything and like putting all the pieces together, which like made me so sick to my stomach because could you imagine not remembering anything, right? And then they show you this tape of you and you're being tortured, and it's just couldn't imagine being in in her shoes. Like, it must be, ugh. So the media had gotten a hold of this story and they were kind of putting it out there about what was going on, right? And once the media put it out there, then another victim had come forward, and her name was Angelica. And she came forward right after the abuse originally had taken place, and she had reported it to police. Originally, her abuse had taken place like right before Cynthia, the girl we first talked about. And because, again, Angelica was a sex worker and a drug abuser, nothing came from it. Nothing happened about it. She told like where the house was and everything. Once the media had gotten a hold of it, Angelica went again to the police officers and told them like, hey, the same thing happened to me and I had reported it and I just want to make sure. She just did a follow-up, took notice of her claims, and eventually the investigators took her claims seriously. Investigators talk with David's live-in girlfriend, Cindy. Remember her? Friends described Cindy as someone who listened to Christian radio, loved romance novels, and loved her small dog. Cindy said she had participated in multiple assaults, and she was willing to give any information on David in order to get a lesser sentence. Right out the gate, she was like, I'll tell you anything you want. Cindy told investigators that David knew he had been tipped off. He had been tipped off to the FBI because the FBI had come by and they questioned him on his slavery ring. He reassured Cindy that he talked his way out of it and not to worry about it. She does confirm that David was selling women to other sex traffickers. She also said that David viewed women in a sense that he owned them, and when talking about killing his victims, he called them packages. Cindy went on to say that David was a crafty little bitch. David was constantly making his own torture devices and restraints from junk he would find either at work or being like thrown out. She claimed that David took photos of his victims during torture but would burn the photos after a period of time passed, which disappointed investigators since this could have been essential evidence used to identify possible victims. So based off of her accounts given, she said that he killed over 30 people. She explained that David tried to dump a body into the lake, but it had come back up. So then he learned to cut open the stomachs so they would submerge easily into the lake and like stay down. And then over time, he would cut open their stomachs and then fill their stomachs with rocks. And then he would tie them back up with like chicken wire and then throw them into the lake, so then they would stay down as well. So Cindy would go on to say that David had dropped about 7 bodies into the lake. So you would think investigators would then go search the lake, right? Like, okay, she's saying that there's 7 bodies in the lake. Let's go check. No. So investigators said that like the water was too deep or too dark. They also thought about possibly draining the lake completely, but it was too costly and it just never happened. So they did nothing instead. So Cindy was being charged with conspiracy to commit kidnapping, accessory to criminal penetration. She was sentenced to 36 years in prison and only had to serve half of her sentence, which was 19 years. And then she was up for release back in like 2017, I think it was. But I could not find, where is she now? I could not find anything after that. I don't know if she got out. I don't know if she's still in there. I wasn't having much luck finding anything about her. Okay, so now Glenda Jean Ray, aka Jessie, aka David's daughter. Remember her? So she was known in the area to be like a drug dealer, and she was pretty violent as well. She lived with her mother, which was one of David's ex-wives, and had a pretty rocky relationship with her father. Jessie would say that she never knew what was happening to the women that were brought to the toy box. She just assumed that they were being raped, but didn't participate in the killing or the rape. Later on, said that she was the one that called the FBI, and she gave an anonymous tip saying that her father, David, was capturing women, sold them in a slavery ring. David would be later on like questioned about this anonymous tip that she had given, but nothing came from it. Remember Kelly? Kelly was the one on the videotape. So when Kelly's accusation of Jessie being the one that drugged her, that's what led to Jessie's arrest, which was April 26, 1999. Jessie, she ended up being charged with kidnapping, criminal sexual penetration, criminal sexual contact, and conspiracy. She was released after only serving 2.5-year sentence, and then she was put on probation for 1 year. Jessie didn't really talk much, so I have no idea, like, we don't know if she was involved more. She probably was, but she's out now. And if she's watching this, sorry girl, like, don't come after me. I didn't do anything. I'm just reporting the story. Okay, so I know this is a lot of people and names, and there's a lot going on. I believe that there were a lot more people involved, but there seemed to be like a big cover-up happening, okay? The 1993 audio, the hypnosis thing, it proposed he was not acting alone in the abductions, that there were many, many people helping him out. And it's hard to find info on it. And I don't want to put out like some wild accusations, but it seems like something super suspicious was going on. There are tons of theories, people in the community being involved, police officers being involved. Kind of seems like a lot of people knew.